Art is the act of transferring your inner self into something observable. Getting pumped up from your favorite song to sobbing as you watch your best friend's dance rehearsal. The universal emotion that pours out is part of the beauty in our existence. Through so many different means today, I want to discuss the crisis Neon Genesis Evangelion created for me. Originally thinking the show was overrated and stupid, Time's arrow rained on me new insight. Art is up to one's interpretation, with meaning changing depending on who you ask. Ava cemented this into my consciousness, and I truly believe it is a masterpiece. To begin, this is not a recap, really even a deep dive into Ava. There's so many video essays already doing that. Rather, this is an appreciation video of how this show I watched years ago changed my perspective on art. I also want to say I'm a little sick, so I'm sorry if I sound weird. Evangelion is barely a show that needs an introduction. I've been hearing about this anime since I started watching TV. The show is held with the highest regard and many call it a masterpiece. It comes with a strong cultural impact as well as influencing many modern anime such as Fooly Cooly, a personal favorite of mine, Code Geass, and even Attack on Titan. Even with knowing all this, I always just put it on the back burner. How great could this old anime really be? Was the show really worth all the hype? To answer these questions, I finally decided it was time to watch it. With great anticipation, I took one of my off days and devoted it entirely to watching Evangelion. As the episodes dragged on, my excitement was quickly drying up. I use the word drag quite literally. The first half really bored me and I had to snap myself out of nodding off over and over again. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like awful. There were some really cool references, the world they were creating seemed really interesting, but there were so many mysteries that the series kept teasing throughout. The second half of the show does pick up and we get some great Ava. Although the scene started to become more exciting, the story still asks many more questions than it could ever answer. This show that has began insane acclaim since I was born was mid? It really could not be, and I was not understanding. I remember finishing the show and being a bit angry. I really thought it wasn't anything too amazing. With everyone else holding it to such high regard, I felt like I was in the wrong here. This led me to read what other people were thinking about it on their subreddit. It seemed like my thoughts on the show were not too original, and there were a lot of other people confused with it and disappointed as much as I was. After listening to some video essays on the show and reading some intricacies within it, everything really changed, which I thought was going to happen, but it never really did click. Overall, the show was pretty boring, formulaic, and failed to have a cohesive plot. It was about time for me to call it a loss, and I moved on from Evangelion. But still months after watching the show, it would gnaw at me. I had given it so much flack to my friends and even in my own head, but it kept a lingering image in my brain. When I did my original deep dive into the show, I had read upon its creator. Ano Hideaki made this show when he was at the lowest point of his life. After falling into a deep depression that sidelined him from work for 4 years, Evangelion was created with Ano saying, "Myself, a broken man who could do nothing for 4 years. A man who ran away for 4 years. One who was simply not dead. Then one thought, you can't run away, came to me. And I restarted this production. It's a production where my only thought was to burn my feelings into it." Ano put his entire soul into this work, and it was while going through pits and tortures of isolation and despair. About a year after watching Ava for the first time, my mental health was at a worse spot. With the show never truly leaving my mind, I rewatched the series one more time, just thinking about what Ano wanted to express in his work. Without the premise of finding a masterpiece or the best anime ever, I sat to rewatch it. This time as the episodes went on, I was feeling a connection to the world. The motivations behind the main cast started to resonate with me. As the show went on, I just wanted more. By the end, I decided to watch the movie instead of episodes 25 and 26. Everything that was being said seemed to hold more weight than my first watch, and the words were starting to pile on top of me. By the end of it all, I was crying, and I felt like I finally understood. My original interpretation was that of many by finding it boring and not really having any real conclusion, and this is after it being regarded as a masterpiece. After time passed and my mental state was closer to that of the creator, the emotions poured out in conjunction with mine. The show was exactly the same, but to me it felt completely different. Evangelion made me understand art and how one can truly interpret something others may never experience. You can go to an art gallery and feel nothing while your brother is uncontrollably crying. The beauty of finding art's beauty is a journey in its own right. In the end, Evangelion Neon Genesis really opened up my mind. Coming out before I was born, this piece of media made me truly appreciate different forms of art. We have all seen some nonsense that sells for millions of dollars online. Besides half of it being money laundering, I can truly see somebody connecting to something so much that others could never really understand. Ava speaks extremely loud to those that are in a certain mindset to feel it, but it barely makes a murmur to those like me originally watching the show. From it almost feeling objectively bad to me taking something so profound from it. I truly believe Evangelion is an artistic masterpiece. For those still here, I appreciate you for sticking around. I'm sorry for the late uploads. And if you enjoyed it and want to hear me talk about some more nonsense, the sub's the best way to do that. Hope you all have a good one, and adios.